about the authentication method policy in Microsoft Entra ID. That's a new way to centrally manage your organization's authentication method. Kind of offers a lot of granular control and the flexibility with regards to than the legacy multi-factor authentication policy, and it's a way forward for managing the authentication method in Microsoft Entra ID. So it kind of gives a unified management for the administrators for the organization with this authentication method policy. That's the end goal. And if you look at the improvements or maybe the business benefits, if you will, um, it sort of helps you to enforce a stronger authentication method for all the users by and thus improving the security posture. The data breaches or maybe the risk of breaches could be reduced to a greater extent, so that you can enforce end users to use or leverage FIDOs or maybe passwordless sign-ins, or maybe you can enable or maybe disable lesser and stronger authentication methods. That's all possible. And then it'll eventually also increase your compliance of your organization. And end of the day, if you look at it, the larger benefit, I would say, is basically a single pane of glass for all the authentication policies. One place wherein you can control the options which are you are going to make it available for the end users, right? We'll have a look at the demonstration with regards to how do we configure this. Intra.microsoft.com. Protection, and then authentication methods. So these are the methods which are made available right now. If you look at it, there were other methods, or there are other methods which are given to organizations so that they can make these methods available for them. But whatever methods had been made available for them using your legacy multi-factor authentication portal or maybe SSPR, all of them will be made available for the end user. Trying to say that if you have enabled a SMS or maybe a MFA or an email as a method in the SSPR, that'll be made available for the end users. So it's always an and sort of a conditions here, right? So if you go to admin.microsoft.com, multi-factor authentication, configure multi-factor authentication. So these options will be made available to the end users in the service settings. Text message, notifications through a mobile app, and then verification code. You can disable this. What this means is basically this will not be made available for the end users. Now, you have another option or rather another gateway to control wherein you can say what are the methods you are going to make it available for end users from the authentication perspective. That will be SSPR for you. So we go to password reset and authentication methods. Whatever you have made available for the end users, this will be the end users would be able to configure a multi-factor authentication based on this option which are given. So net end users are going to get a an and of like these things plus multi-factor authentication service settings plus whatever you're going to make it available for them on these authentication methods policies. In order to make a single pane of glass where you will be able to configure this on this particular portal, you'll have to consider migration of all those authentication method policy, right? So you'll have to start reviewing your legacy multi-factor authentication policy, understand what has been made available for the end users, and then you watch, you keep an eye on that, leverage the insights and usage and other reports which are made available so that you can understand what end users are using. And after once you understand what is leveraged by the users, then you can communicate with them, and after that, you can start migrating them. And we are going to talk about how do we migrate those policies from the legacy to the latest authentication methods. This has been extended to 2025, so you have enough time. But again, you will lose out benefits with regards to having a central control plane for all these authentication policy if you do not choose to migrate. So the first and foremost step, as I said, you'll have to document, audit all the existing ones, see and understand what the users are using, etc. And you can now start doing a managed migration. These are the options which are given. The new tenant, so I am given this option to start with. In your tenant, it could be pre-migration. In these two options, all the legacy will be honored, which means if you have enabled text message or maybe notifications through the mobile app to users, all of them will be made available for the end users, and all will be honored. When you kind of hit this migration complete, that's when it'll whatever you have configured on SSPR and on the legacy portal, that'll become void. That'll be dishonored. That'll so whatever you have configured here, that'll be the one which will be taking precedence. The other one will be completely ignored when you hit this. So you'll start with this pre-migration, move to this migration in progress, and then eventually land here. And the whole beauty of this particular migration exercise is you can go back to the migration progress in case if you think that you have missed something, if you want to kind of, undo certain thing, you can always go back and select this. So we'll start with this because this is what has been given as an option. So if you start manage migration, nothing to save here, pre-migration, I'll not be able to do it. If I say go and hit migration complete, this will error out. It says cannot disable all the authentication method. You have to enable at least one authentication method. So we'll go and enable this for all users, maybe save it, come back, and again I'll try to migrate this. Again it'll fail. I'll tell you the reason why. It'll say you'll have to disable the other methods as well. So the next step would be you'll have to make sure that you disable all the legacy MFA and SSPR policy. We go to here, disable this. Now before we disable, let's go and have a look at what is the end user experience right now. Here I've logged in as a user Jane002, security info. I can, whatever has been made available for me, like, authentication application, phone. In fact, email was also there. Since I've configured, the email has gone away. But otherwise, like all the settings in the authenticator legacy and also the SSPR, that'll all these options will be shown here for end user to be able to add a sign-in method. So, for example, if I delete this, you can see that these are all the options are made available for end users. Going back to administrator, I'll go and disable this. That's what our migration wizard wants us to do. It's not letting me save, so let's go back and then maybe we'll go and select the other options as well. Maybe for SMS, enable this for selected users. And these are all optional if you want to configure for certain set of users, etc. Right? So this way, I'm kind of preparing myself and making sure the users who have those policies already enabled, I'll make sure that is also enabled here so that there will not be much of an end user disruption. Now I'll go to the password reset as well. Let's see authentication methods. I'm going to disable this and save it. And that's saved. And going back here, refresh and deselect. And I'm getting the save button here. I'll go ahead and save it. Okay, so that's that. So now if you look at it, the legacy is completely disabled, and it's asking for an authentication because I'm just kind of refreshing the my sign in page. Anyways, I'll just close and then re-log in. Logged in as Jane. Now if you look at it, I still have these options. I think it'll go away in a bit. I'm gonna cancel. I'll just refresh the page. Yeah, so you can see other methods have gone away, right? So whatever methods had been given to Jane as an end user, that's all taken, and then we are giving only one method, which is like your authentication, authenticator application, which we feel as an administrator is secure. Now, based on your business requirement, your end user community will receive their respective sign-in method. So you can plan this and the deployment a little methodically, communicate with the users once you're kind of start small, and then target a certain sort of organization, and then you can go big and then deploy it to all users. Now in case if you have to go back and then change the setting, and yeah, administrator, you can always go back and manage migration, and you can move this to migration in progress. So right now, if you it's still not complete, right? So we have disabled that there. We'll have to basically say migration complete. Once you hit the migration complete, that's when the whole story completes in terms of the migration is done. You now go back to the multi-factor authentication. You can turn on now, but let me go and refresh the page. It's refreshing. Yeah, now you can see it's all grayed out because the migration is complete. Now it's only single pane of glass, or there's only one source of truth for all the authentication policies. You can go to password reset as well. Just below here, you can see the gates we have configured, whatever, like one or two, but you can't select any of it, right? So as an from the organization perspective, from the admin perspective, in case if you want to kind of go back and then tweak it little, then you can always go back and then manage migration, move this to migration in progress, select a reason, and then after that you will be able to select the other options as well in the legacy portals in case if you have to change.